Hey guys, this is Mr. H. This is question number 30 from the August 2024 Algebra 1 Regents exam. It's a question about factoring. Um, in the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years, they've been putting at least one question about factoring where you actually have to factor. Sometimes they'll put a question in the multiple choice section on a trinomial that a quadratic that they want you to factor. But this is actually where you have to be able to factor. And this is how I would do it. The very first thing I would do is I would make this into a function by setting the expression equal to f of x. Okay. Second thing I would do is I would take the coefficients and I would find the GCF between the coefficients. And then once I've made the functions and I've gotten the GCF, I'm going to graph this and I'm going to find the zeros and find zeros. Because once I find the zeros, I know that I also know what the factors are. So let me kind of go through what you should be doing. So let me grab the calculator and let's see, tab, and then it's going to be 5x to the third power minus 80x. Press enter. All right, so that is our function. And we want to find the zeros. The way you find the zeros, just use menu 61. So it's going to be menu 61. Going to go here, here. Let me move this over. So one of the zeros is a -4, menu 61. It's going to be here, here. And then we're going to do menu 61. And we're going to go here and here. So these are our three zeros. So I'm going to write those down because I'm going to need that information. So it's going to be x equals a -4, x equals 0, and then x equals a +4. Now, I have to go and I have to find the GCF for those coefficients. So I call this the, let's see here, we're going to go here, and then we're going to do menu is going to be number, and we want to find the greatest common divisor. Greatest common divisor and greatest common factor are basically the same thing. So all you're going to do is you're going to put the two numbers in, divide, and separate them with a comma. So 5, 80, and it'll tell you what the greatest common factor is. So the greatest common factor between 5 and 80 is 5. So I've written that on my paper. So now I can actually go ahead and finish this by factoring. Now, the key idea is when you know a zero, you can always find the factor. And the way you find the factors is you set the equations equal to 0. And the way you do that is you just take the opposite and add it to both sides. So this is going to be x plus 4 is equal to 0. This is already equal to 0, so we don't have to do anything. And then on this one, we're going to add a -4 to both sides. So this is going to be x minus 4, and this is going to be equal to 0. Now, once you've got all of the equations equal to 0, those are your factors. So x plus 4 is a factor, x is a factor. Well, if I can get that, and x minus 4. So I can say x times x plus 4 times x minus 4. That's factorized. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to take this GCF and put that in front, and we're done. This is completely factored. This is the completely factored form of this expression, 5x cubed minus 80x. Okay, now, one last thing. This is always what I like. I always want my students to know if whatever they've done algebraically or whatever they've done is correct. So this is how you can check it. We already know what the original function looks like. So our factored function should also look identical. Just because we factored it, we shouldn't change, it shouldn't change the graph if you've done it properly. So I'm going to go and I'm going to enter my factored form. It's going to be 5x. And you got to put a times between this and the parentheses, by the way. So I'm going to do x plus 4. That's the, and then I'm going to do x times 4, or x minus 4, sorry, x minus 4. All right, press the parentheses, boom. Notice you see the blue graph went away and now it's all red. That means that those two functions are identical, but we had to overlay it with the new one. But a better way to do this is actually just to look at the table and see if the output tables are the same. So I'm going to do Control T and then Control 6. And now what you will see is that if you look at the table, no matter what input value you look at, the outputs are going to be the same for each function, right? So that means the expressions are equivalent. The factored one, this is the original one, here's the factored one, they give the same output table, which means they're basically the same function. So we factored it, and that's kind of our proof that we factored it properly. The functions are basically the same. There you go. Now, they have one of these types of questions almost every exam. The last like 4 or 5 years, they've been putting a factor completely problem on there. All you have to do is make them into functions. If it has any coefficients, find the GCF, and then graph and find the zeros, set the equations equal to 0, and those will be your factors. That's it. I'm going to stop and I'm going to post this.